25 years old, excited about finally graduating college after a long 10-year professional student career. Grateful to finally get to the finish line so many dream of. Happy to be right at the cusp of making my family proud and having a drive-through graduation party. All of my 2020 graduates understand that. This was me just last year. See, I remember the excitement of finally being able to tell my mom, your son is about to graduate college, only to be internally battling with inward doubts that the industry I was entering, hardly anyone looked like me. So instead of trying to pull up a chair at a table created by someone else, I decided to build my own table, and I started my business. Mid-May of last year, in the height of the pandemic, I launched a brand marketing agency called NDVU Lab. I hired a team of 7, and within the first 6 months, we were already doing 6 figures in revenue. And now we're on track to do 7. Those numbers may seem impressive, but in all honesty, I did it scared. Right? I was scared because I know that there are 30.2 million small businesses in America, but not many of them survive. To be more specific, 20% of small businesses fail by the first year, 30% by the second, 50% by the fifth, and an astounding 70% of small businesses have closed their doors by the 10th year. I was scared because for Black-owned businesses, those numbers are even worse. 8 out of 10 Black-owned businesses fail within the first 18 months, and only 41% of Black-owned businesses employ up to 5 people, and only 12% employ up to 10. I was scared because for Black businesses, there's a misconceived notion that our products and services are inferior to that of white-owned businesses. But despite the depressing stats and seemingly unsurmountable obstacles that many Black business owners are faced with daily, somehow, some way, as a Black business owner myself, I was able to overcome those odds. But I don't think I'm special. And I believe that there is a very clear reason why this has happened to me. Simply put, I believe that access to great information, relationships, resources, and exposure are all essential to having success as a business owner. 1525 to 1866, during the slavery era, Black fathers, Black mothers, Black sons, and Black daughters were taken from their homeland and involuntarily brought to a country to partake in forced labor, better known as slavery. During this time, one primary method used by many slave owners with slaves was to keep the body strong, but the mind weak. This was done by not giving slaves access to books, schools, resources, or any form of a proper education, therefore marginalizing Black people. And although this occurred hundreds of years ago, the result of marginalization has found itself laced in American culture and has led to a current economy riddled with systemic disadvantages. Some of them being Black schools not being properly funded, out-of-date textbooks, and defunded extracurricular activities. The problem with this is it signals to young Black boys and young Black girls from a young age that we do not want you to succeed. We being the system, a system which further perpetuates the idea of marginalization and the truth that it is much harder for Black people to receive access to the right information, resources, relationships, and exposure. See, I'm a firm believer that information changes situations, and with the right information and resources, you can give yourself a chance to live the American dream. Okay, so now for a second, I want you to close your eyes and visualize that same Black girl and Black boy in your mind right now. That Black boy and Black girl has grown up in a community that is underdeveloped, no access to a local grocery store for miles, attends an underfunded school, and daily walks home from school can be frightening depending on the time of day. Extracurricular activities are at risk for being defunded, or maybe they already are. Household income is barely above the poverty line, and constant systemic subliminal messages of being told you're not important enough is a present reality. That same young Black boy and Black girl happens by a thread to make it out of 8th grade, graduate high school, just to go to college with hopes of creating a better future. But the years of subliminal messages that you're not important enough constantly lingers. Open your eyes. And see, now you realize by society standards, you weren't even expected to make it this far, but now that you have, you realize again, hardly anyone at this level looks like you. So now you're forced with two different options: build your own table or pull up a chair at a table that sometimes does not welcome you with open arms. This is the reality of many Black people in America, which is why many of us take the chance at creating our own businesses. And despite the odds, we muster up the courage to take the journey of entrepreneurship in hopes of creating a more equitable future. So, as stated before, what happened to me was no coincidence. I simply had access to information that should have been more easily accessible. I had a few mentors. One of my mentors owned the #1 marketing agency in Chicago, and my other mentor was a business savant and a former consultant to Fortune 500 companies. From the two mentors, I was able to consistently learn and listen far beyond my years and instantly apply that to my business, which helped me to avoid pitfalls that most startup entrepreneurs make. Lessons such as hire slow, fire fast. I've had to do that a few times. Ugh. Or build a team around areas where you're not as strong. Yep, that happened to me too. Or invest in your people and let your people build the business. Also, spend most of your time focusing on your strengths rather than fixing your weaknesses. Never put people in a position to discredit your business, because they will. And also, no matter what, always over-deliver. I was also taught how to build a thriving company culture and how important it is to always show up 5 minutes early to each meeting. How many of us still struggle with that? I know sometimes I do. But most importantly, I was taught how to be a transparent and honest leader. And when you're transparent and open, your team will follow you wherever. The intangibles were my greatest lessons learned from my mentors. This is information that was ingrained in me mentally early in my career, and I was able to find success living by these principles. However, my worry is too often minority and Black-owned business owners do not have the same opportunities to listen and learn intimately from people who have been there, done that. See, those two mentors I just mentioned to you were both white. One of them was my former boss, and the other was a lady I met at a church I previously attended. So I will call these relationships essential to a lot of my fast-track growth, but unfortunately, Black and white relationships don't necessarily get nurtured enough to truly build a bridge. And because of that, there was no transfer of information. But I understand the difficulty on both sides. On one hand, you have a lot of successful white people that might not take a non-white person seriously enough to mentor in that way. As well as you have a lot of Black people that may have trouble initiating or being open to that kind of relationship with the white person. It may even question the validity of that relationship due to the traumatic history of building trust between cultures. Between stigmas and stereotypes, there could be so much that divides productive Black and white relationships. But what I realize is that when we put our differences aside and choose to build forward, there is truly beauty in the experiences and wisdom that can be offered to both sides. And we also realize there is more that unites us than separates us. Being receptive and exposed to various perspectives exposed me to a different way of thinking, living, doing, being, and becoming. Being around so many different cultures and racial expressions allowed me to view the world in a fresh way, and it helped me to transform and shape the way I interacted with it. But I can only imagine what it would have been like had I not encountered that exposure. Would my story have been different? Definitely. But should that difference disqualify me from the American dream? No, it shouldn't. So when we view Black-owned businesses and Black business owners, and we see discouraging failure rates amongst our community, there can often be generalized misconceptions of what caused the business to fail. But as said before, the misconceived stigma that follow many Black-owned businesses, whether successful or not, is that we carry an inferior product or service to our white counterparts. But that is simply not true. I believe a more accurate reflection is Black-owned businesses fail more than often because of simply not having the right information, relationships, resources, exposure, or support that other business owners organically receive. But more and more daily, we are seeing the narrative change drastically, especially when it comes to anything Black-owned. And in this moment where America is taking a moment to notice and respond to Black culture, lifestyle, and business, it is my hope that soon we can normalize Black business success. And Black business success doesn't have to be a rarity. Rather, it will be another testimony of living the American dream. Thank you.